So let's see about this leaked Epstein documents.
Center, which, from what I understand, was arrested in July 6, 2019 on federal charges of
So there's like a new document release.
human and sex trafficking. So pretty serious allegations, pretty serious convictions, and he had died in August 10, 2019 in his jail cell at
But why
Metropolitan Correctional Center, which, from what I understand too, is pretty much close to as a administrative detention facility, like almost a supermax, so to speak. Maybe it might even be like a supermax, the same actual federal penitentiary that El Chapo was held at, and I think he still is held at.
El Chapo?
No, he was actually sent over to ADX Florence, which is the actual Colorado, like Alcatraz of the Rockies. Okay, once you're sent there, you ain't ever getting out. So point is, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, and there was an island that he primarily resided at. The island was known as Little St. James, right? A small private island within the United States Virgin Islands territory. You might have seen this island digitally represented by one of your favorite streamers who was flying to it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Truly goofy times indeed. And it wasn't just your favorite streamer.
Okay, good one.
The entire LAN party was chilling out here parking their planes. This island is referred to as the Island of Sin by local individuals, okay? This is not a great place to be at. Not a lot of good things happened here, as you can imagine, with a nickname of that caliber. Now, last night, a lot of documentation was released, about over 900 pages of information in regards to, Epstein and Maxwell's case was basically unsealed by the United States government. Now, according to this documentation, there was actually a deposition where questions were asked and questions were answered. One of them was posted by an account known as Censored Men.
Chad, no joke, and 900 doesn't seem like a lot for a case that big. 900 seems pretty small.
Who said the files released?
Yeah, it's actually pretty big, bro.
Hawking allegedly liked watching undressed,
seems very slim.
Small people. Can't use that word anymore on YouTube.
Stephen Hawking, huh?
People of diminutive stature solve complex equations on a too high up chalkboard. Okay, so inside the question is like, hold on one sec. Are you telling me that Stephen Hawking frequented the island for pleasure? Yeah, Jeffrey left to have intellectuals visit the island so he could reward them for their hard work for humanity and for other darker reasons. Now, obviously, that is, nobody talks like that.
That's concerning, huh?
But the question says, did Jeffrey ever talk to you about the proclivities? Yeah, he liked watching me solve complex equations on a too high up chalkboard.
What?
Now, obviously, people who read this laughed their ass off. But in reality, this wasn't real, okay? If you actually go to the documents right now, which
is pack, what?
And is something that
I'm not sure what to believe anymore.
Really implore people do, which is one of the reasons why this video is a bit important to me. If you actually type in any of these words, you won't notice them actually reflected at all in these documents. And that's just a thing. You can, however, find actual mentions of Stephen Hawking. So there is one mention where Jeffrey Epstein sends an email
so it was fake then?
From a Gmail account, which, by the way, was news to me, why these people would actually discuss their potentially criminal situations using Gmail when they could have set up their own private email server they clearly had the money to, is beyond me. Maybe there is a silver lining. So he sends this email to G-Max, which is Ghislaine Maxwell. You can issue a reward to any of Virginia's friends' equiants. Family that came forward and helped prove her allegations are false. So here he's setting up a bounty
supposed to be acquaintance
or a reward almost that, hey, listen, if somebody can help disprove these allegations, please come over. The strongest is the Clinton dinner. And the new version in the Virgin is the land that Stephen Hawking participated in an orgy involving underage individuals. So again, this is the only actual mention in this 900 plus page document. Not 900 plus page document, 900 pages of documents. See, there were so many documents that were released that even the court website that was originally showcasing these actually ended up crashing. Courtlistener.com isn't even functioning.
Guys, a bunch of people were throwing mud on his name and shit like that. It's gonna shitty.
You can obtain these documents through the U.S. government. They are just floating around freely to access. So the information is out there. You just have to sit through and parse through
I still don't understand what it does.
Information. Now, one of the things that I wanted to also tackle before we continued was this idea of a client list. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for the longest time, for the last couple years that this situation, the few years that we've been talking about this, there's been a lot of discussion of a potential list of clients, a list of high-level clients that have been partaking in illegal activities. Now, that list, from all of my examinations of all these documents, doesn't actually exist. There is no real list. There are mentions of names. Like we just looked at Stephen Hawking. That was a named mention. One mention, and that's about all you're going to get. There's no magical list. See, the list, I actually tried to look at the origin of this, and one of the origins that I found was through a publication known as motherjones.com, where this person talked about looking through a unredacted version of Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book, which I guess is the closest thing to a
Black book?
list you're going to get. This black book is an address book. So you can see right over here where he talks about it. The public first became aware of the book in 2015, which a now defunct website, Gawker, published a version of Rodriguez's
What is this emote?
copy. Rodriguez was the butler on Epstein's private island, revealing for the first time just how ludicrously connected Epstein was to the people who run the world. So again, this file, this unredacted version, popped up on some dark corners of the internet. With almost every phone number, email...
I've only seen a little bit of this because I don't know if the island was ever people ever went there and there's no not any sinister things to it.
Was there? Visible, and I got my hands
No, so is that clueless?
on a copy. Now I don't know where this person got it from. Maybe it's on the dark web. Maybe somewhere it exists.
Was it a permanent, perpetual, always bad thing, and everybody went there? Definitely saw, definitely seen or participated, or the people go sometimes. There was a party and then they went home and it's okay.
But this is again the extent of the source that we're getting.
I'm asking,
I actually went to Gawker in this situation, and while the website
Actually, depending
is down, you can use the Wayback Machine to pull up an actual article from October 30th, 2023, where they actually talk about that specific black book. They have some screenshots of it and everything. And Gawker published it for the first time here, where they redacted addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, and last names of individuals who could have been, under the age of 18.
I guess it was address.
I looked through this entire list, and yes, it does contain some really powerful individuals, which shows that, yes, this billionaire, trafficker, billionaire, financier, obviously had some pretty powerful connections from what it appears in his address book, his little black book, so to speak. Now, this list isn't indicative
Felix is in there.
of people in this list committing actual crimes, okay? To understand, these are highly wealthy, highly powerful individuals. And this is a small group of people...
slow down. What the fuck it?
St. Paul. Good one.
Who?
From what it appears in his address book, his little black book. So,
Chad, stop it. Guys, stop. Guys, stop.
Contains some really
no.
Chad's dumb as fuck.
It's actually there.
Highly wealthy, highly powerful
Shut the
individuals.
fuck up, man.
And this is a small group of people where everyone pretty much knows everyone in the situation. For instance, if you found somebody like, I don't know, Elon Musk in this book, which I didn't find or anything, that isn't indicative that Elon was doing bad things. That just shows you that a billionaire knows another billionaire. There's not a whole lot of billionaires in the world, and there's a pretty healthy chance that powerful individuals know the names of other, similarly powerful.
What you're saying makes sense, but I feel like if you say this, people will say, you're defending them. Guys, I think even though it's a sensitive topic, people should know at least kind of be careful in the things that they say about this shit. Because these are amongst some of the worst things you can do to people, right? Some of the accusations, and lumping people into that, right, causes a lot of damage and not a lot of healing. That's just what I'm saying.
Individuals.
Okay, makes sense.
Same thing with people like Donald Trump, or Biden, or really anybody, or Obama, or any individual that is listed. People like Bill Gates, maybe like Tim Cook. A lot of these powerful people know other powerful people, but this is the only list that I could find. And again, while he possesses powerful names, every single one of these names doesn't exactly amount to much unless you have really, unless you have evidence that can convict them of serious crimes. Now, in my notes, I have a few names that are mentioned in these documents, okay? One of them is obviously Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton exactly here is mentioned 1 out of 26 times in the
Oh,
exact
bruh, the
Control F.
membership,
Again,
perhaps.
if you want to look up specific names, Control F exists. I know people
no,
have
hold
been
on.
asking for people like Bill Gates. Bill Gates shows up 0 out of 0 times. Now, Bill Clinton
that's
was
pretty
mentioned
good.
in this, and one of the most damning mentions was when they were looking at depositions taken thus far by Miss Giuffre. Okay, so you got Ghislaine Maxwell, who was deposed for 7 hours. But of course, if we scroll down over here, you can see in one of the depositions by
only
Joanna
7 hours?
Schoberg, one of the victims here, she actually states that Joanna testified Jeffrey told her Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. And this deposition, if you're looking over here,
Yes.
page 41, if we scroll all the way to the top, this deposition again, just to show you, because a lot of people have been taking screenshots of this, but they haven't exactly shown the full context of what these exact statements are coming from. So this is a deposition by Virginia Joffrey, the plaintiff.
Oh, let me guess, it's gonna be
against,
nothing. It's gonna be,
Maxwell. So confidential, the deposition of Joanna, pursuant to notice taken by plaintiff at the offices of so and so.
It's gonna be a whole bunch of
So this is a deposition
and they
of
gave up.
somebody, of course, giving their recorded statement. It's not exactly a statement of fact, nor is it an actual record of fact, nor is it actually evidence pertaining to any of these people. But of course, going down over here, ladies and gentlemen, was Bill Clinton a friend of Jeffrey Epstein? So of course, Miss Menninger writes, objection, foundation. Let me back it up. Do you know if Bill Clinton was a friend of Jeffrey? I knew he had dealings with Bill. I did not know they were friends until I read the Vanity Fair article about them going to Africa together. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill? He said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. So that's literally the extent. Said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring
One time, huh?
to girls. So that's literally the extent of that exact point. So this is, again, Jeffrey talking about his boy like that, okay? Not exactly good to hear, but this isn't exactly evidence of anything. This is just, again, a deposition. So the reason I'm saying this is because some people are throwing it around like this is possible fact, when again, you are reading an entire transcript from a recorded deposition. Whether that's true or not is for investigators and a court to properly decide. But again, this is a pretty dirty mention, and at least from the outside looking in, not good.
True.
Now, throughout this deposition, there have been other named mentions in this situation too, and I want to address those real quickly. For instance, people like Al Gore were mentioned.
Mods. This guy in the chat. Mods, look.
So again,
What did he say?
page 109 out of this deposition, where they actually start talking about, do you remember meeting Prime Minister Ehud Barak from Israel? No. Do you recall meeting any prime minister? No. Any foreign president? No. Nobel Prize winners? Not to my knowledge. Naomi Campbell? No. Al Gore? No. Alan Dershowitz? No.
Al Gore.
Lexner?
Okay.
No. Tom Pritzker? No. Kevin Spacey? I may have already asked you, but have you met Kevin Spacey? No. So in this entire list, obviously these are named mentions, but when you get the full context of this deposition, these names don't really amount to much. They were asked, they were shotgunned out, they were pretty much rapid fired, and the plaintiff in this situation.
I understand it.
was
I
like,
understand it.
No.
So because it's a deposition, there's a bunch of questions, and it mentions somebody's name. And when people say, "Oh, dude, this guy's name is in this court case," that is weird. And then people make TikToks like, "Dude, fucking Stephen Hawking, fucking
Actually, out of context.
from a plane in a parachute in his wheelchair, went to the island, bro." Just because his name is in a fucking Gmail or some shit.
No, I didn't meet anybody
man.
in
Yeah,
this.
the meme.
So when they start talking more about other people like Marvin Minsky, I don't know that. George Lucas, no. Donald Trump, no. Did you ever massage Donald Trump? No. Sorry, I have to ask you, did you ever have
That was out of random. What?
relations with another individual like the, Alan Dershowitz, for instance?
Brother.
Objection, absolutely not. The witness writes. Do you know who that person is? I do. So again, looking through this deposition, names were mentioned, but obviously in the deposition they were kind of rapid firing these names, and a lot of them weren't and a lot of them were just unidentified people. They were like, I never met them. That's not true. So that's pretty much what we're kind of getting at with this depo. And again, there is hundreds of pages for you to actually look through and sort of read this for yourself.
Guys, spoiler alert, chat. Spoiler alert. It's boring as fuck. This is gonna be the most
And nobody editing that.
mind-boggling annoying fucking brain-numbing shit to read.
Don't take my word for it. That's just how it is. So if you want to read through all of this, you want to read through these depositions, everything regarding this specific case, it's all unsealed and it's all available for you to read. Now, to understand, obviously, for people like Clinton, obviously, I think Billy C. was a weird guy. I think we all know Bill Clinton was a weird guy. Again, there's nothing, accusatory that you can put onto him that already hasn't been talked about.
Oh, I get it. Is there anything else in this? Oh, hold on. Oh, what the heck is all this?
The list.
Committing illegal activities. I know that there's probably people who are saying, but what else could they have went there for? To understand, it could have been anything. It could have been a meeting. It could have been something nefarious. It could have been something positive. It could have been anything. Again, I'm speaking to you as if this was going to a court, right? Just because your name shows up on a flight log doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything wrong.
Yeah, but
to give you an idea, reading through some of this...
Yeah, this is the court of public opinion, and public opinion isn't the kindest. Public is brain dead. I'm fucking brain dead, so
log, it was a little bit
that's true.
difficult for me to understand, and I'll explain why. So there's a couple mentions at times of Jeffrey, for instance, so we know who that is. Jeffrey plus Mark, so somebody who's related to him. And sometimes they refer to, an individual as two females or one female. And this is really odd to me because sometimes they have names and sometimes they just put like one or two females into it. And I'm wondering if there's a reason to do that. Maybe it's to conceal names. Again, this isn't like a government like audited sheet. It's just literally a private logbook, and you could put anything in there. You could write Santa Claus if you wanted to. But that's just a...
you would need the person who wrote
Santa
to say what was the protocol. If you can't... I'm not going to bother.
Procedure, maneuver,
Wait,
and
Santa's in there?
Santa Claus.
Where? Where's Santa? Where?
Okay, this autumn.
But that's just a remark, procedure, maneuver, and endorsement of, anything on that flight or anything of specific note. Of course, then it gets to a point where they start abbreviating names. So you see JE, GM, ET, female, and again, it's just abbreviations. So without a sort of index to tell you what those abbreviations are,
ET.
You can make an educated guess. Like JE, probably Jeffrey Epstein. GM, probably Ghislaine Maxwell. VR, who knows who that is, right? Again, you can make a educated guess, but it's not exactly a statement of fact that you can necessarily make. And again, if you look through more and more of this list too, you can probably find more key names. For instance,
not the alien.
Actually showed up a couple times in this. Now, one thing I want to just correct here too in post-editing as I'm doing this is looking into the from and to sections, specifically for these two Donald Trump flights where he's been specifically fingered. You can see in the from section it says TEB, according to how I understand the handwriting, and then the to section is PBI. So 2 dates from TEB to PBI and then back.
Airports?
So TEB appears to be the airport code of Teterboro Airport, and PBI is Palm Beach International. Now, I'm not a multi-billionaire, so I don't know how often flights are constantly shared. I don't know how much flight air pooling goes on, but it just shows that these two were in a plane together. Again, there's 100 pages of this documentation, and if you want to comb through every single entry, exit, date, flight, who was on it, it's for your viewing pleasure. So going to page 18 of the deposition again, you can see that a question was asked. Do you recall where you flew to when you traveled the first time with Jeffrey? We left for Palm Beach and landed in Atlantic City for a few hours because there was a storm in New York. Then got back on a plane a few hours later and landed in Teterboro. And you said that you recall landing in Atlantic City? Did you go into Atlantic City? Yes, we went to one of Trump's casinos. Did you actually go into the casino? Yes. Do you recall Virginia at the time? Virginia Roberts being
did they gamble though?
Yes. Do you recall if she went into the casino? She was underage. I did not know anything about how old you had to be to gamble legally. I just knew she could not get in because of an ID issue. So she and I did not gamble. So even, as far as Trump was mentioned in here, it was the casino. And that's pretty much all that one could get to. So powerful names were mentioned. People like Donald Trump, people like, Bill Clinton. And of course, let's not forget people like Prince Andrew, for instance, where they literally refer to as Prince Andrew. Arguably, he's probably mentioned more times by his
18
official
times,
title,
yeah.
Prince Andrew. I believe at some
73.
point they actually do just use first last names. But he's mentioned arguably as much as
Oh,
Bill
73
Clinton even in
times,
this list
okay.
too. Again, these aren't names that anybody is shocked by. Everybody knew that these were kind of the names that were going to be pointed fingers at. But it was great to actually sit down and review hundreds of documentation that pretty much just already proved what
Jeez,
the world
man.
already knew anyway.
This guy had the fucking
So again, all of this information is
obsidian
floating
rank of
around
attendance.
freely to access. You can right now read these all for yourself. And there is a lot of context that can be added. There's a lot of things that can be learned about this case if you're truly interested. But for me, I wanted to look at, again, what appear to be the largest bombshells and also clear up misinformation and also provide more context and understanding of what people were reading, at least as much as I logically could. Look, at the end of the day, this case interests me because people have also turned it into a sort of left versus right or team sports on the internet. Look, at the end of the day, I don't look at people as powerful as Bill Clinton or Donald Trump as different individuals. I look at all of them as the same. I look at people like Prince Andrew, people like Bill Gates, people like all these.
Alright, what else we got today, chat?
Oh, where's the lab? Self-editing, I guess.